everyone. I'm Rachel, here with Ari, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week, we're on episode 328, asking, how do you retain readers across multiple platforms? Before we start, don't forget to visit and follow our coffee page where you can access lots of goodies for free. And if you're in a position to support us, you can become a Merry Writer for $2 a month and get access to exclusive content. Everything we earn on coffee goes into keeping the show going, so we really do appreciate any support. All right, so I came across this question on Quora or Reddit, and I apologize, I can't remember which, and it was a while ago, and I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it because I didn't think to save it at the time. If I do happen to come across it again, I'll leave a link in the description, but I make no promises. Regardless, it got me thinking, and I thought we should do a podcast episode about it. Basically, this person was asking if they write short stories, how do they get those same readers to read their novels? And if they write mystery, how do they get those same readers to pick up their spicy romance? And they also wanted all these readers to follow them on all platforms, meaning social media channels, their website, email list, guest posting, etc. I think they wanted to have a steady following everywhere, which in turn would attract new followers and readers, because obviously if you have a good amount of followers and somebody sees that, they may be like, oh, this person's popular, let me follow them. At least I think this is how I interpreted their question. So I may be interpreting it wrong, but we're going to talk about it anyway. But this is a tricky question to answer because there's no guarantee the same readers will read everything you write. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit because in the past, we've talked about that a good conversion rate for email lists is 2%. But because I can't do math, I'm going to make the numbers much easier. Say you have a subscriber list of 100 people. You send an email. Only 50 of them will open it. Out of those 50, only 25 will actually read it. And of those people, you can expect roughly 12 of them to click on your book's buy link. Once on the buy page, about 6 of them may add the book to their wishlist or TBR pile. And then 3 of them will actually buy it. Now take that scenario and say you gained those 100 subscribers from your lit RPG epic novel. Now you're releasing a Western rom-com. Yay, good for you. What reactions do you think you'll receive? Some are going to say, well, I only like lit RPGs, so I'm not going to try a Western rom-com. And others will say, I've read Westerns and rom-coms before, but not together. Let's give it a try. Or, I've read Westerns and rom-coms before, and ew, this isn't for me. And finally, there will be some superfans and say, I love this author's writing style and plot twists. I can't wait to see how they put together a Western rom-com. Basically, some people will read anything you write and others will only want to read a specific niche from you. Now, I know this episode is about retaining readers across multiple platforms, but I feel that needed to be said anyway. You can't retain readers on various platforms if they're not interested in everything you write. And 9 times out of 10, most people aren't going to be interested in absolutely everything you write. So that said, now we can talk about what you can do on these various platforms to attract readers in general, old and new. First, you want to know your writing and publishing goals. Some authors write for themselves, others write to market, and now I've said my piece about writing to market before, so I won't get too in-depth with it. If you want to attract readers old and new and want them to follow your work on a few different platforms, then you need to know your focus. Why do you want these readers? Why are your books and stories important to these specific readers? And all of this goes into finding your target audience, which I'm going to let Ari discuss because she'll explain it better than me and I need to breathe.
I'm not sure I will, but I will give it a goddamn try. Your target audience are people who actually want to read your book, people who are the specific readers for your book. And no, everybody loves my book is not a thing. It really isn't. I mean, you can have someone who loves fantasy and still won't like everybody's fantasy book. Just saying. And a target audience, it is important because if you market to everybody, you're going to get more bad reviews because you're going to get people picking up the book that they're not really interested in and leaving a shit review. This is why we don't, carpet bomb every reader with, hey, you'll love my book no matter what. It's like, no, you won't. So you need to be aware of who your target audience is. You can do this with things like comparative titles, comparative books. So you find books that are similar in your genre. Maybe you write fae romance, because apparently who doesn't? And you have several fae romance books that you read that you like, that you think are similar. Then you find out who sort of likes that. You can do this by finding groups online who talk about it. You can look on social media, see who's posting about those books and who's raving about those books. You can sneak around on Reddit in their fandom areas and have a look to see what people are interested in and if they talk about where they hang out talking about these things. And then you can sort of use your marketing to target those people. It also helps if you have a vague idea of your ideal reader. Now, I go on how much I like this concept. The ideal reader is where you create a character of a reader that is specific. So maybe your book is a romance. Let's try a rom-com western, and it's mostly aimed at women between the age of 35 and 50, who live in Southern America. I don't know where where do westerns hang out in America? Where's Is it Wyoming or Colorado that has ranches? Wherever that is. I don't know. My geography of America is terrible. So say that's who you're aiming for. So then you create your ideal reader, and maybe it's some woman called Susan who lives in Colorado, and she is 42, and she has a dog because a lot of westerns have dogs in them, and she's also big on horses. And she likes to go to theme coffee stores and buy expensive mugs. Maybe she really, really loves her book club. And then you build this whole profile about this one person, and then you do all of your marketing as if you're talking directly to Susan, who has a dog and is in a book club and loves horses. And that's what you do. And apparently, a lot of marketing people really rave about this. We've even got an episode about it. Again, I still kind of sit on the fence with it. I can see why it would be useful, but I'm not sure about. But honestly, my brain changes as it goes. That is your ideal reader, but your target audience from that is women within a certain age who hang around in these certain areas, kind of thing, who really enjoy reading these specific genres. And then you can target them there. And also, there's ways to find out lots of areas and websites that can go through where people are. Like Facebook used to be the it place. Apparently, I was never good with Facebook, and now apparently it's more the older generation. So you want to target some woman in her 40s or 50s, maybe Facebook actually works for you. She's probably not on TikTok. I mean, she might be on TikTok, but it's like TikTok, Snapchat, all that is less likely to have her. She's probably on Facebook or Instagram, maybe even on MySpace. I don't know. Is MySpace even a thing? Is it still going? Has it been completely closed? I don't know.
It might still be a thing. I don't know.
I don't even think I was on that when it came out. I never liked social media, even when I was younger. Although I've never been that young.
I was too young for MySpace. By the time I was old enough to get my own social media, Facebook had just come out.
Yeah, no. It's Facebook came out when I was a bit. I think I was in my, I want to say mid-20s, 30s. I think I don't know. I don't know how old I was. I can't remember. I think I was in my, yeah, no, I don't know. But I didn't get it. But I know why people do it and people get into that. And again, if you're targeting a certain age group and a certain gender and a certain person who really likes certain things, then you might say, oh, right, well, I'm going to target Facebook over Instagram, or I'm going to go to book clubs because the people I'm talking to don't go on Facebook or social media at all. They go to actual book clubs, or maybe they hang out in the library. So that's why your target audience can be useful. It can help pinpoint your main audience's location. And there is somewhere on Facebook you used to be able to do some sort of search, like a graph search. I think I've got a blog post that talks about it. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. If it is, I will link to the blog post because that used to help you find target audiences based on who would read your book. But yeah, so if you're wanting to think where you should be finding people on the platform, especially because like we're talking about like multiple platforms, that's great. And it works especially if you have multiple books, definitely, because you will definitely have different audiences and you want to snag as many people as possible. So if you are writing your lit RPG and your western rom-com and maybe some creepy horror that's like really weird, that gives you a broader audience to grab. You just need to find out where they all are. Because the one thing you don't want to do is target every area with the same book. And then it's like, okay, nobody is reading lit wrong RPG on this platform. Obviously, I'm being facetious. There's probably somebody on there, but don't do that. Don't be like, yeah, I'm gonna push that in this very specific horror genre forum. It's that kind of thing that you're not supposed to do. Apparently, I have no idea where I was going with this. I've kind of fuzzed off, so I'm just gonna stop talking. Sorry, Rach.
No, no, I'm gonna bounce off of what you just said because you can look at your own demographics on your social media channels and like if you're on YouTube and stuff, you can see the general demographics of your audience that check out your profile, that engage with your content and whatnot. So you can see if you're on YouTube versus Instagram versus Blue Sky versus I don't know anywhere else and see the different types of demographics that follow you on those platforms, that can help you realize, oh, I should talk about my lit RPG novel on my author YouTube channel because there's a huge gaming community on YouTube. But my Western rom-com, romance is a pretty big genre right now, and there's a huge reading community on Instagram. So I can talk about that on my Instagram. And I'm not even touching upon the fact of, or the possibility of you using multiple pen names for these different books. Obviously, that's kind of different if you have multiple pen names because then you most likely have two different Instagram accounts, two different websites, maybe. I don't know. I don't have multiple pen names. But this kind of goes into my next point, which is market like an expert. And I don't believe in experts, but I'm saying it anyway. You want to research these various platforms because as we kind of just touched upon this, but not everyone is on every single social media channel because again, YouTube has a huge reading community. Blue Sky is a bit of a mixed bag, whereas Goodreads is for readers and all author is supposed to also be for readers, but it's mostly authors. So you need to kind of pick and choose where you want to talk about your books and a lot of times many people aren't going to follow you to a specific social media. Like, I'm not going to open up an X account to follow a particular author. I'm not going to create a Threads account to follow a particular author. I just don't want to because I don't like social media. And the other thing is, you have to look at it from the flip side too. If somebody follows you for writing a specific genre and then you flip a switch and you start writing in something else, there will be people out there that will say, well, I didn't sign up for this, and they may even unsubscribe. And I know I've done that. Take YouTube, for example. I used to follow many different people, and then the algorithm changed and they grew bigger, so they changed their content. And while it's still pretty good content, it's just not for me. So some of them I don't watch anymore, and some of them I even unsubscribe to in general. And I feel like that's the same with books. And we've talked about it on the podcast at some point. I don't remember when, but we did talk about how you don't have to be on every single platform as an author. In fact, you probably shouldn't because that's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort and you'll drive yourself crazy. Pick one or two social media platforms plus your website and your email list and spread your book knowledge from there and then the rest will probably be word of mouth. Like if you have a reader that reads your lit RPG and then you say I'm coming out with a Western rom-com, they might have a friend that doesn't read lit RPG and has never heard of you before, and they might say, "Hey, I know you like reading, but this I have a favorite author of mine and they started writing a Western rom-com. You might like it." And I mean, you get readers that way too. Word of mouth is a huge, huge marketing tactic, which isn't really something that you can control, but it's huge. And finally, you just want to research current tropes and trends because what are readers looking for in their stories? And if yours has that, talk about it. Let people know.
Yeah, I think what you said about like don't be on all platforms if that's not what you want, because that is a really good way to burn out, is trying to be on multiple platforms, especially if your target audience isn't even on that, and then trying to make new content. Now that was always a push, wasn't it? It's like be on as many platforms as you can, but make sure individual content is different. And then I don't know if it's changed, but I've seen a lot more people who just ignore that completely and they put the same, you know, the same basic stuff on each platform. because sometimes you physically can't spend that much time diversifying. When it comes to newsletters, though, especially if you are writing something completely different. Now, I think I'm going to add a little caveat. If you say you wrote fantasy, regular traditional fantasy, dragons, magic, whatever, and then you decide you want to write horror. Now, if you are writing horror and fantasy, so you're going to write some fantasy, then you're going to go to write some horror, then you're going to write some more fantasy, you're going to write some horror. What you might want to do, it is a bit more time consuming, but it could be worth it. Is set up 2 newsletters. Now you can still use the same platform. All you do is I would use the first main newsletter to say, look, I have decided I also really want to get into writing horror. I'm still going to write fantasy, but I also want to stretch out and write horror. If anyone is interested in this, could you let me know? Here's a link to sign up to my horror newsletter. You'll still be on my fantasy one if you want. If you only want to be on the horror, we'll take you off the fantasy. If you don't want to be on the horror, leave it and you'll stay on the fantasy. And then you can have 2 subscriber lists. And that way you can send out one that's for the fantasy people and one that's for the horror people. And there'll be somebody on there who gets both newsletters and some who only get one. Now, if you used to write fantasy and now you're going to horror and you are not writing fantasy ever again, or at least for a long time, you may want to either create a new newsletter and let the old one fade away, or be very, very open with your subscribers and say, look, I am going in a different direction. I'm going to start doing horror. The fantasy's over. I no longer feel it anymore. I've seen that with people, like they used to write YA and they've moved to adult, and that can affect people. And then give them the chance to unsubscribe a few times. I would re-mention it a couple of times. And then you'll lose some people, definitely, but you might not. Some people might do the whole thing where it's like, I don't mind giving horror a try. And then you start marketing towards the horror and you'll get new people on. You could do it that way. I think trying to cram both into one newsletter isn't great. I also think giving people the chance to have 2 newsletters, and it does sound like more work, but again, if you've already got your template, if you've already got your system in place, you can have them sent on the same day. And if you set them up so there's 2 subscriber lists, and all you have to do is pull the subscriber list for each one, write in your details and send it. It is a lot more effort, but it's not that much effort. There's a number of authors I know who have 2 separate newsletters, depending. I mean, there's one who has a reader newsletter and then an author newsletter. So on the reader newsletter, she's talking directly to readers about her books, her characters, what's coming out, events, things like that. And then the second one is about being an author and marketing ideas, and she writes nonfiction marketing books. So those are what gets pushed more to the author newsletter, because the people on that are mostly authors who want to learn. I'm on both of those because I am a reader of her books. I like them, but I'm also an author and I would like more information. If nothing else, I would definitely have 2 newsletters if you're doing different ones, and then give people the option very clearly on multiple choices that you have 2 newsletters, and do they want to move. The same can be done with websites. You can either make a second website, or you can have a section of your website devoted to your new book. So rather than having, here's all my books, and then you've got like light-hearted sugar and spice rom-com and horrorcore murderous horror, you might want to just like make 2 separate like parts of your website, and like really divide the 2. Like, here's all the love rom-com. Do you want something a little darker? There you go. Click to that link and do it that way. That means you can also have the branding better for both. So same with the social media. It's like, maybe create a second one, or at least give people an opportunity to know that, hey, all that nice friendly stuff is going to go, and there's going to be a lot of darker horror imagery popping up, because the last thing you want is that to suddenly hit you in the face when you weren't expecting it.
I really appreciate that the genres we chose for our examples are like 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. But hopefully we're getting our point across. And that's a really good point about having the 2 different like segmented subscriber lists for your newsletter. It does sound like more work, but it'll be so much easier in the long run. And I can almost guarantee that your readers will appreciate you for doing that, because people don't want something shoved in their face that they didn't originally sign up for, or unless they have the option to give it a try, but they don't want it to happen without their consent or knowledge or heads up or whatever. So now we want to hear your direct thoughts. Do you share your writing in multiple places? And do you have a way that you try to retain the same readers across these places? Or do you have you have targeted readers in these many places? Let's chat about it in the comments. Remember, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Next week, we're interviewing another author on the show, so to ensure you don't miss it, please hit the subscribe button on your way out. And if you'd like to learn more about us, check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com and our coffee page for more content. Thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Too Many Ideas. We keep writing sequels. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.